Hey everyone, I'm going to do a video today on mounting this fan in here. So I'm going to go over fabrication of the aluminum brackets, mounting the fan in here, doing the wiring, then testing the thermal switch and wiring. So if you're interested, sit back and watch the video. I've given it a little bit of thought to where I want to mount this fan and how I want to mount it up. I don't want to block the bolts that go to the outer skin because you need to be able to access those, and I don't want the fan too far this direction that would be blocking it, so I'm going to have it sitting about a 1/4 inch off the surface of this radiator. And how I'm going to do that is I have these two vertical supports here and here, and I'm going to take this aluminum that's a really thin piece of aluminum, and I'm going to bend it. I'm going to mount it flat against this piece and against this piece, but I'm going to bend it in a U shape so that it goes back in front of the radiator, comes across the front of it, comes back up this bar, and then this way I'm going to attach it here, here, and here. And I'm going to cut a little bit of the shape out for the fan so it doesn't restrict the airflow through the fan. But anyways, that's my plan for the day. I'm going to do it on top and bottom of the fan. And then we'll get the thermal switch mounted, the thermostat that will turn the fan on and off, and we'll connect the electrical up. And so let's get this finished up today. So the lighting is horrible this morning with the sun where it's at. Anyway, so I've marked the aluminum where I really want to bend it. That's the dashed lines here. And then the solid line is where I'm going to actually cut this thing. And then the two dots on each of these sections are where I'm going to drill holes for the mounting points. But so to get these measurements, I just stuck this in against the back vertical support, and then went back towards the radiator to get the second location, how deep I wanted it and how far away I wanted it from the surface of the radiator. And then for the long piece, I just set it across these two vertical supports, marked it on both sides, and then went back in again on the vertical, going back in and marked it. Oh, sorry, there we are. The sunlight's horrible this morning, sorry. But you can see it goes across there and then comes back. I have a lot of this material, so if I make a mistake on it, I can try it again, but I think this should work. I'm going to go ahead and do this one on the vise down in the shop, come back up here, and try and dry fit it. So that worked out pretty well. This is what I got when I went and bent it on the vise. It took a couple minutes to do it. I cut the end off before I went and bent it on the vise. And we'll do the second piece. I'll show you how bending it on the vise. But this is where it fits. Fits right in there snugly. We'll bolt or connect it here, here, and here. So, and then I'll cut a shape out of this aluminum for the fan, so we're not restricting the airflow through here. We'll do it on the top and bottom, and then we'll make a piece that goes to block the airflow. I might do just like a piece of foam or something on the top and bottom to block the airflow so it's pulling it more through the fan, but and pushing it out of the outer skin. So let's go down to the shop and bend the second one. I'll show you how I did that. Alright, so we have our piece marked where we're going to bend it and then cut it. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut it out here with the circular saw and the carbide blade. So this is just a standard woodworking blade with carbide teeth on it. And take a look at that. I love cutting aluminum with a carbide blade because it's quick and it's clean. So there's that cut, and then we'll head down to the shop here. All right, so this is just a bench vise, and then I have a couple pieces of flooring oak samples from Home Depot that I'm going to use as my little pinch points. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the second bend in first, that way, because if we had to do the first bend and then we had it bent down, you can't really do anything with the second bend. So the best thing is to work with the second bend on this first. It's just sequencing planning. And you just line up the edge of the wood block with where the line is, clamp it in the vise, and then just pull it. And then once it's down pretty far, you just smack it with a hammer. And this is a dead blow hammer. And that's that. Undo the vise, move up to the second bend. You can see that. You should be able to see that. Line up these pieces of wood a little bit better. Clamp it and just push it. Bend it down. And once it's bent over far enough, you just smack it with the hammer again. And there's your first nice little bend, and then we'll do the same on the other side. Work with the second bend first. You make sure that you're going to bend it the correct direction, the same way that the other one's bent. Now we move it up to the outer bend. Yeah, it's no big deal. If you make a mistake, you can always just cut it and redo it again. But that's pretty much the bracket. Back up to the excavator and see how it fits. Alright, so this is the one we just bent in the shop. This is going to be the lower bracket. And you can see if I dry fit it, I need to account for this non-90 degree angle here, which I'll just take it out by hand and give it a little tweak, like so. And there you go. And then we'll just make sure everything works. We're going to go ahead and drill some holes in here for these to mount to the vertical supports. Mount both of those in there. Draw on where the fan goes on this, and then make a little cutout for it. I'll probably use the bandsaw to do that, or maybe notch it with the circular saw. Haven't figured that out yet. But anyways, let me get that done, and we'll get the fan in here ready to mount. Okay, so all I did was I have these just sitting in here in a dry fit fashion. They're not mounted to anything, and I just put the fan up against the where I want them to be, and trace the outsides of where the fan is and the mount points. I'm going to go and drill holes here, mount the fan for the first time to those, figure out where I need to cut the inside out for the fan itself, and then that will be the next step, and then we'll do some mounting of this. I think I'm going to use some self-tapping screws and mount this to this point. Alright, see you guys in a few seconds here. Alright, so I set this down on a table and put the fan where I wanted it to be, and then this inside line here is where I'm going to cut this metal out. I have multiple options I could use. Carefully, very carefully, I could use a reciprocating saw with a metal blade and cut that. Or I could use a 4.5 inch grinding wheel and cut it out, because this is pretty thin aluminum. I think I'm going to use the bandsaw. Go cut those shapes out and drill these holes. Okay, see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I cut these out on the bandsaw. I had a woodworking blade in there, a really fine one, so it was easy to turn these curves. This is really thin aluminum. The woodworking blade goes right through it fine. These are the mounting pieces that came. They're kind of like zip ties, but they're circular. They came with the fan. I'm kind of curious to see how well they work. I was going to use screws with Loctite on them, but this might be actually pretty easy and quick to do. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. I want to mount the fan this way. let's see. Let's push these guys through first. Never worked with one of these fans before, so this is all new to me. I think that's how it would go. And I would think I'd want the spring on the top side of it, like so. Mount this one down like that. I do not know for sure, 100%, so this is just trial and error. If this doesn't work, I'll cut it off with cutters and then just put a, yeah, I'm not too impressed with these guys. They're not super locking on there, but let's see if they hold. I mean, it's alright. It lets the fan bounce around a little bit. Interesting mount. Put the bottom two on, and then we'll go put this into the excavator, make sure everything lines up where we want it, and then go ahead and start drilling holes to mount this in. Alright, I finished putting those zip tie thingies on here to show you what they look like on the other side. And I'm going to cut these extra long pieces off, but I'm going to leave a little bit on there so I can, if I have to reuse them, I'm going to hopefully maybe be able to reuse them. But if all else fails, I'll just resort to screws with Loctite on them. So there you go, that's what it looks like. I hope the lighting's okay. This light for me this morning is horrible for the sun. I can barely see the phone screen. So anyways, here we go. We're going to dry fit this guy. See if it fits in there. Line it up top and bottom with the radiator core. I think that's pretty good. And we're not touching the radiator. That's good. So I'm going to drill some holes here, and there. Maybe one on each side of this one because there's this little curved area that keeps me from getting in here. I might have to cut this zip tie that I put in earlier to keep this wire out of the way because it's in the way right now. I'm going to zip tie this wire to the fan. What that'll do is give this a little stress relief so that I'll probably zip tie it in two places so that this isn't bouncing around when the machine's vibrating, because what will happen if you just leave it like this is this will break these wires. So you always want to stress relieve wires anywhere you can. So a couple zip ties along this fan guard would be great. So I'm going to do that and then I'll get back to you guys. Alright, so I'm going to use these self-tapping metal screws. I pre-drilled a hole just to get it to go through a little easier. It's a little bit smaller than the diameter of the self-tapping drill bit, but I'm just going to do one of these on video and then I'm just going to go and do them off video. Don't need to waste all your time. And, oh, dropped my bit. But anyways, that's how a self-tapping screw works. I mean, it's good and solid in there. So, I'm going to do the rest of them, get back to you. Oh, it's getting warm out here today, but alright, so we just finished mounting this. I only have 4 points of contact, and I'm actually very happy with how rigid this mount is in here. I thought I would need more with as thin as this aluminum is, but it seems to be pretty good and sturdy. I still have questions of the viability of these little round zip tie spring mounts that they included with the fan. And like I said earlier, I can always replace them with a screw and a nut with some Loctite on it to keep it from coming off. But for now, I like how it's mounted in here, so it's easy to service if I have to service it. The next step will be hooking up a thermal switch. And this switch is a normally open switch, so it means it won't be conducting current unless it's above the temperature that it's set for. This is a 45 degrees Celsius switch, which is approximately 113 degrees, I think. So probably plus or minus 4 or 5 degrees within that range. It will turn on and run the fan. It will turn back off again approximately 90-95 degrees Fahrenheit. So it will only run the fan as needed as long as the switch is functioning properly. So the next step will be to connect this or hard mount this somewhere, probably like in here. That'd be a good spot for it, or down here. And then I'm going to hook it up to the main on-off switch for the excavator. This fan should only turn on when the engine compartment is above 113 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we'll go from there. Alright, so I did mount the thermal switch to this metal bracket that I made earlier. I just pop riveted it on here. Just drilled 2 holes on this bracket and just put some pop rivets in it. So my plan is to go off the positive lead of the battery that's underneath the left foot, driver's foot. I'm going to disconnect the clamp on that, pull it forward, get to the positive post, and then put an eye loop on there. Run a short piece of wire, and always put a fuse in line with anything you do in wiring, because otherwise you're asking for a fire. But this is a 10 amp automotive fuse. It has the little blade connections on it. It's a standard automotive fuse. And what I like about these is you can just use a quick push on connector and make it into an inline fuse by just doing this with it. So anyways, I'm going to do that a few inches from the positive post. Run the positive wire up along the frame up to the switch. Run the blue wire up to the switch. And then I'm going to cut the back side of this black wire off, put an eye loop on it, and put it to the negative part of the frame, because the switch for the vehicle, this guy, the quick switch, is connected to the negative post of the battery, and if the switch is in the off position, it disconnects the negative lead from the negative port frame of the vehicle. The vehicle is negative. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get it all wired up, make sure everything works, and catch you guys when I'm testing it all. See you in a few minutes. Alright, I want to test all this wiring I just did out before I actually clean it up and tuck it into place. But right now it's just kind of free floating, so I can test it all out. Let's show you what I did. I connected to the positive post of the battery back here. I rebolted the battery clamp down. Went to a connector to this automotive fuse. Back from the fuse through another connector, wrap that with tape so that if this vibrates it doesn't come loose. Go back from the fuse towards the fan underneath the frame here, up to the thermal switch, from the thermal switch out back to the blue wire of the fan, and on the black wire of the fan I cut off the connector that was there, put an eye loop, and then bolted it to the frame here. Right now the machine is turned on, but I can turn it off and turn it on, and there's no fan running because the thermal switch is not closed. So I can induce a lot of heat into this thermal switch with a lighter, which will take a long time to actually come out of it because it's going to heat it up fast. So let's test and make sure that this thermal switch actually works. Come on, where's the lighter? Come on. There we go. The wind, it's kind of windy today. I'm gonna, oh, come on. Oh, darn it. This lighter is not behaving. There it goes. All right. So we definitely got the fan running with the lighter. So it's going to take a little while for that to cool down from that lighter, because that switch is really pretty warm right now. It has to get down to below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's see, to verify that this disconnect switch does turn everything off. We turn that off and it disconnects everything that's connected to the frame ground, and we'll turn it back on. The fan's going to run for a while as that cools down. But what I'll do is I'll discuss what I'm going to do in the next video while that's cooling down, waiting for it to shut off, make sure it shuts off. So next video, this is the return line from the hydraulic filter, and the fan just shut off because the switch cooled down. This is the return line from the hydraulic filter going to the tank. So what I'm going to do is cut into this with some 5/8 barb fittings. They're barbed on both sides. And I have some 5/8 hydraulic hose that I'm going to put on here. One side of this hose will go this way underneath, back up to this radiator here that has a 10 AN fitting on it going to a 5/8 barb, and then the other side has a 10 AN fitting on it to a 5/8 barb, and then the other end of the hose will route up, that's going to the tank, we'll route it up to here with another piece of hydraulic hose. And that way we can skip doing any of the expensive fittings and hoses. Since that's a low pressure line, we're not going to worry about possibility of things leaking. So anyways, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed and you really want to see more of these videos, hit that subscribe button because you'll get notifications. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.